Welcome to the DriveLife podcast.
Right, we're back for part two with swap seats now. So, Shaun, you are in the hot seat.
The hot seat.
The hot seat.
It's where the pressure is.
Time to hear about your car history. I've babbled on about mine enough.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't supposed to be a two-parter, but your stories were so good, we just had to keep going.
I just don't know when to shut up. That's the problem.
So have I got a 5-minute window now?
Yeah, basically. I've given you 5-6 minutes at the most. But yeah, no, two-parter works fine. Fine, let's get into it.
Okay, so where do we start?
You teed me up about kind of my how I got interested in cars when I passed my test, all that. So we'll start the same place for you. So where did it all begin?
Car journeys. A lot of similarities, I think, with my my car journey. Obviously, I'm a little bit older than you.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to say?
Fraction.
Okay. All right. Well, so the sort of cars that were available were a different world, and my entry to the car world was, at a different time in terms of where cars live. We know that where the car scene is really. So when I was in my kind of sort of late teens, this is really when hot hatches were really kind of starting to kind of take off or starting to exist. So I learned to drive at 17. I was really, really keen to kind of get involved and get a car. I just couldn't wait to do it. Fortunately, my next door neighbour, obviously still with my parents at 17. My next door neighbour was an ex-driving instructor.
Okay,
and was able to pass, get myself and my younger brother and younger sister subsequently through our tests for literally, price of a little packet of tobacco. So he smoked pipes. So the deal is that he would teach us how to drive, once or twice a week. And my mum would keep him topped up on tobacco, which was
got to take these perks deal. when they arrive.
It's a good deal. Deal. I don't think he actually smoked. Did he smoke while I was driving? I don't think so. But anyway, different world then. So going back to your story, Mark, with you grew up in this kind of infusion of Ford.
Yeah.
Has it been Ford? Well, at that time where sort of our family's journey was, we were in Volkswagen.
Okay.
So my dad had a couple of Volkswagen transporters at the time. Sort of like the sort of Mark 2/3 transporters, 2.5 I think they were called. But previous to that, my granddad, which is on my mum's side, he had a Volkswagen Beetle. And something about that, the Beetle, who didn't love the Beetle, there's times when Herbie was out and things, and it was kind of an iconic car at the time. So at round about a time when I was approaching time to drive or learning to drive, my dad had bought a I think it was a Mark 1/Mark 2 Polo. And it was the one that it looked like a bit of a mini hearse. Okay. I've actually got a picture of it. Actually, I'll show you a little bit later on. Yeah. But and I'll obviously share on the screens. But it's the one that's kind of just got this strange back on it, and it's not quite an hatchback, but it just looks like if you take a hearse, shrink it in size, put a VW badge on it. This is exactly what the car, and it was in the best color in the world, brown, and it was the shittiest brown in the world. But I didn't care. It was a great car to learn to drive, and it had the old choke on it, which was known as the place where girls put the handbags. Apparently, you pull this choke thing out. I don't know. I'll put it on there anyway. So it was an interesting car to kind of learn to drive in. 1.2 litre. And obviously it was a great car at the time. And after passing a test, I was still doing my A-levels at that time, and then very quickly went into full-time employment. I was borrowing my mum's car literally all the time, and I knew I needed a car. Absolutely needed a car. And for me at the time, it had to be a Volkswagen because I know it made my dad proud, And at that time, you'd have anything really. I'd have a Citroen 2CV. You'd have anything just to have your own set of wheels. You got your own keys, your own freedom. So my dad was quite a stickler. He's one of the most difficult. He's really high standards, is my dad. So I'd take him with me to go and look at a car and that, and he'd go, "Oh, this is not right. This is not right." And I'm like, freaking car.
Yeah.
So anyway, dad was self-employed at the time. He did a lot of hours. And so I had a bit more free time on my hands. So at that time, Auto Trader, the internet didn't exist. So the way you looked for a car is you get the Auto Trader, come out on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And you had to get it on the Thursday, because if you start looking for it at the weekend, all the best cars had already been gone. So you have to get it on the Thursday. So I got the Auto Trader, you kind of scan through the listings, and I knew ideally my perfect car would have been a Golf. But they were a little bit more expensive than Polos. Anyway, this car came up, and it was a Volkswagen Golf driver, right? So for those who I don't think they do a driver as a model anymore, but basically what it was is a Golf GTI replica with effectively a 1.2 litre, 1.1 litre engine. So it'd be, for a 17-year-old boy, just like, look, these,
perfect.
Even down to the kind of like checker seating and golf ball, but literally it was a GTI just in.
So it's like the R line now you can get, which is like the aesthetics, but not the engine.
Yeah, and it was. But I mean, the Mark 1 Golf is just an absolutely awesome car.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'd seen this car came up. I remember its price, £625. It was. Mileage was fairly reasonable. It had probably a few more owners than you would have liked, but it was red as well, Mars red.
Okay.
Best colour ever. So anyway, went to look at this car, and it looked all right, needed a little bit of fettling in a few different areas. Took my mum with me, actually, because my dad was at work, right? So I took my mum with me. My mum's like, "Yeah, that looks nice."
You took the right path.
So I did a little bit of a test drive with this car.
Yeah.
And I already just went around the block, and like, as soon as I sat in this car, I'm like, "Yeah, I want it." Like, I want this car. And of course I got no one to tell me no.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, the car was having. Now, the car had literally no history that really exists in terms of paperwork. Guy didn't even have the logbook for it. And I made some sort of excuse, bad reason why I didn't have the logbook or whatever. No understanding what the story is. At that time, to get the V5 document, you effectively just had to fill a form in at the post office, and then just you fill this thing in, put some details down, they send you a logbook for it. That's all you need. You didn't need to actually have the actual document to send and do it. It's a different world then. So when I bought this car, so then couldn't wait for my dad to get home. So can I get some?
You weren't nervous already because of that?
I was a bit nervous because I thought, I bought it and I've not got his blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. Bold move. Bold move.
It was a Volkswagen though.
Yeah.
And I just thought like, he'd be proud because it's just an awesome looking car.
So how did it go?
So anyway, maybe not quite as well as I pleased. I think he was happy, and he was quite, what's the word for it? Reserved, but very quick to kind of start looking for what was wrong or right with it. And the first thing he spotted is the mileometer on it. It's exactly the same as it was on the MOT, which was 6 months previous.
Yeah.
So basically, we had no idea what miles this car had done because it had not done any miles since its MOT. So that it literally stopped spinning around.
Right.
So the mileometer wasn't electronic like they are. It was an analog sort of system on there. So that was the first thing. I think everything else on the car was kind of, but it clearly, it'd been used and abused.
Yeah.
So I had that car. I think less than a year, maybe a year or so. I can't remember. And it had not been the most reliable car, but it was still brilliant for me. First car, it just ticked all the boxes. Then my job changed, and I needed a car that I could put something a bit more reliable, a bit more newer. So that was an X-Reg at the time. And I wanted something a little bit newer. And because it was an expensive car, and it was going to kind of sell on fairly quickly. So I went up then, and I went from a car at £600 to a car which I think was just shy of £3,000, which was another Golf. So that was then a 1.3 litre Golf C, I think it was, which was in awesome condition. It was one owner, bought from a guy who'd previously ex-military, so he kind of bought it when he was posted over in Germany. So it would like been bought in Germany, but bought as obviously as a right and drive car, and then he'd obviously imported it when he come across. But the car was really good all round. So the first thing I want to do with that is make it look like a GTI, because I'd had the driver, which was obviously GTI looks, and I wanted to do the same to this because it just sounded a little bit boring. So I did everything with it. I fitted electric windows, Moss alarm, because everyone had to have a Moss alarm on the car, because you know, if it didn't, it was going to get left on bricks, wasn't it? BBS alloys, twin headlamp grille. What else did it? You know, lots of kind of the wheel trim arches now in plastic as well.
I'm quite familiar with this modern cars.
Oh, honestly, it was
to make them look faster than they are.
Great. It was great. And the thing is at the time, right, the Golf, and in my opinion, was the best it was the hot hatch to have. And because it was really like the GTI, the Golf GTIs was the car that started GTI. It was the first GTI of all manufacturers out there. And, you know, it was a great following. The VW following at that time was just epic. You know, they have these annual events, you know, not just in the UK, but obviously in Europe as well. And just the culture of the VW following was just brilliant. So I was really into was buying the magazines every month and really kind of into all these different mods that people were doing and putting VR6 engines into a Mark 1 Golf. And, you know, it was just a great community and stuff. I can't afford any of it. But, you know, you kind of dream and you kind of aspire. At that time, if somebody had asked me at that time, what would be your ultimate car? At the time, I'd have said a Golf VR6. Mark 3, because the Mark 3 at that time was the kind of the top one. And it was just like, you know, is it an epic time? Epic time. So I kind of got one of the pictures I was just digging through, preparing for this, sort of like, and one of the photos, obviously I'll share this on there, but I've kind of got, I didn't even know this photo existed. So this is me and my brother. And you've got the car I learned to drive in.
That's a great photo.
The car I had, my first ever car I bought. And then obviously the kind of the second car, which was bought, that was pre-mod before I'd started kind of doing it. So obviously I still had both cars at the time. You know, just all in the driveway of my parents, you know, it's just...
Perfect. It definitely shouts we are VW family.
Yes. So definitely it's VW family, you know. So yeah, we'd have blasted the Ford boys out of the way. No. But no, so Volkswagen is kind of, you know, always been in my blood, really, to that degree. So naturally, kind of when I wanted to move on from a Mark II Golf, which is another one which was red again, I was ready for a Mark III. And then you kind of start wanting more luxuries in the car. So you're kind of wanting the aircon, you're wanting the electric windows and the electric roof that closes when you hit the button. And so you're starting to appreciate all these kind of extra mod cons which newer cars have kind of got. So you start to kind of go up a little bit up the price bracket as well. So I was then looking at my dad was saying, right, you need to be more efficient as well. You know, to be looking at like TDIs and stuff, you know, because at that time, that's when diesels was just coming in to kind of be the one to go for and that. So I listened to my dad and I literally put a deposit down on a, what is the equivalent of a GT TDI. Before I think they had the GT TDIs, it was like a top spec TDI, which I was planning to GTI buy. And for some reason, I think there was a couple of things so this is at a Volkswagen dealership, and I wanted them to, there was a few bits in the pieces it needed doing to it, like a bit of paintwork and stuff. But I wanted to, while it was in, I wanted to fit the Hella headlamps, I wanted to fit the GTI spoiler and these things. And something happened, and they kind of it just didn't quite get over the fence with it. I think they might just be messing about a little bit. And in that meantime, I just happened to be passing another Volkswagen dealership in Doncaster, and they'd got a GTI in there, which I thought, at that time, again, a dream car. I'm never going to be able to have one because I was going to insure someone in the early 20s to drive a GTI. So, but, you know, if you just make a few phone calls and just try a few insurance companies, you know, it's a dream. And I got an insurance company that would insure me on a GTI in like at 21. And like, well, that's it then. That's it.
That's the big hurdle out of the way.
That happened. You know, so yeah, I got
into a
GTI.
Awesome.
8 valve, but red again. And absolutely love that car to bits. You know, all the trimmings, all the extras and stuff on it. Yeah, absolute brilliant car. and then I had to buy a house.
Yeah, the real life stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, it got sold.
Yeah,
I went down to driving a 1.2 litre Clio, which is not on my official car list. Diesel.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it was a 1.6 litre actually, diesel. I was working in Nottingham at that time, living in Sheffield, so
yeah,
I could do the miles and stuff on it. And
yeah.
it served a purpose, you know. Not my highlight of a car history. So as quickly as I could get back into the kind of Volkswagen world, I did. So I went through a bit of a stage where I had a couple of company cars and that sort of thing with where I was working. Then at some point, this had been about 2001, 2002 time. I got another Golf, Golf Clipper this time. So that's a Mark 1 convertible Golf.
Okay.
With a big bumper kit on it as well. First convertible, absolutely loved it. Absolutely brilliant car. Had that a little bit. And then my brother was kind of following in the wings a little bit, you know, taking a little bit of I think an influence from me, and he'd had a few different cars, and he happens to, he bought off a friend a Mark 1 TT 225 turbo.
Okay.
Which was convertible. And I went with him when he picked it up. I had a drive in it, and I was the most jealous brother in the world right at that moment. It was just, I mean, you know, to go from kind of the cars that we'd had, kind of go to that, it was just, the Mark 1 TT was just a brilliant car. So when it come to him selling it, I was kind of, I wanted to buy it, but I bought it off him, but he didn't sell it to me cheap.
No,
you know,
no brotherly love.
He got market value for that car, and he made sure he got market value for it. But I was able to pay for it over a number of months. So
okay, what a jump though. That's a jump into.
It was a great car.
Yeah, a nice coupe.
You know, and you get a lot of people saying that you're like an hairdresser and stuff. With you know, driving in the snow right, on the M1. Right, with the roof down. And a
you didn't do any favours for the stereotype, did you?
Brilliant car.
Yeah, it's a shame that in a certain sense that some cars get a bit of like a stigma or a reputation attached to them when they're so good. The car themselves are so good. Like the TT is a great example, like you say.
It just handles so well as well.
Such a good car.
And I think that was my first Audi. I think I'd had another Golf GTI before that as well. Actually, there's probably a couple of them maybe I've missed out there, because I think you go through a phase where sometimes you don't keep cars for that long. But it was a great car, and because I think I'd got a company car at that time as well. It was kind of really of a second car. So it was something you appreciate more when you went out for a little drive at weekends and things. And it's it was a great kind of car to have. And then after that, what did I do after that? I think I went back to another Golf. So I needed something a bit more sensible at that time. I think we just had a child as well. And little stage with an A6 saloon.
Okay.
Again, just being a bit practical. It was an SE as well, so it had the velour interior as well. It was
very nice.
Quite nice.
I think it's a shame that Audi don't make saloon versions of some of their popular current estate cars. Like, I don't even know if they make a current saloon A6. No, they don't make a current saloon A6, I don't think, because the Avant sells so well. But I'm pretty sure, I might stand corrected here, but I'm pretty sure there is somebody who's made an aftermarket saloon RS6, and visually it's everything you wanted it to be. I do think that they have
massive,
really great looking cars. Yeah. It's a shame they don't make them like give you the saloon option anymore, but I do like them.
I know. I'm a big fan of the estates. I mean, I think after the saloon, actually, I did have an A4 Advance.
Okay, yeah.
And I went for a higher spec one. I drove down to Birmingham to find this one, and it was nice. It was DSG.
Yep.
It was an ex-showroom like special order thing. So it had a fridge in the glove box.
Okay,
all the things that you kind of never think that you need.
Yeah.
But when you've got them, actually, it's quite nice.
Keep
those 2 cans of Coke. It could take.
Oh, perfect for me.
Go in the front. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, we had quite a few kind of Audis through the ranks, and then I think when I eventually started working for myself properly, I went back to I needed to buy myself a company car, and I'd started this new business. It was in 2010. Start a new business.
Yep.
And my role in that business was effectively a sales role. So I thought, well, I don't need a van, do I? The more sensible thing was to go out and buy a Volkswagen Caddy.
Yeah.
But no, I thought what made more sense was to go and buy a Mark 1 TT V6. That's
like petrol head man maths, isn't it? You're doing everything. You're justifying it somehow in your head. You've made it work. That was the car for a traveling salesman to buy.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. I'm very proud of you. Great choice.
I actually went, I'm not joking. I actually went to some jobs with my toolbox in the back to do install a TV.
You just petrol head you were always meant to be. That's all I take away from that.
Yeah. That was a great guy. I actually had that car. I think I kept that car a good 8-9 years, and had loads done to it.
Yeah. Well, V6 TT, it's not a slouch, is it? Great car.
Bomb-proof.
Yeah.
The engine's doesn't need anything done to it. You can't really do much from a tuning point of view. There's a few little bits and pieces,
yeah.
But they're just great, iconic cars.
Yeah.
Really, and even today, they're so cheap to pick up. Pick up start from like less than $1,000. I think some of them are out there. They're a bit tired now, but they're lovely. A lovely car. So I've actually had 2 Mark 1 TTs. And I think that what happened then is I at that time I was starting to kind of get into kind of the car club world a little bit, really. So I had a little bit of involvement with the TT Owners Club, which is again a great community. They've had a few ups and downs, I think, over the years. Things used to be forums based and that, or and things have kind of chopped and changed a little bit since Facebook came was invented. Because obviously all this predates the internet. It's interesting to see how the internet's also impacted on people's and the car culture as well. Whilst with the kind of TT Owners Club, we kind of used to do these like monthly meetups. We would meet up. I was kind of involved with the Yorkshire branch, and our monthly meetup was the car park at Castleford Escape on a last Thursday of the month. And we were basically
very popular.
the
Location.
back end of the car park.
Yeah,
and we'd have a whole mixture of people that turn up, in various levels of value TT, when we'd basically go for a little drive out somewhere and maybe have a curry somewhere or something like that, and it was a bit of car community, but you're kind of doing that all off on your own back, really. There's quite a bit of involvement in there, and I think it died down a little bit, but a great way to meet, fellow enthusiasts, of obviously the TT, but also just generally car enthusiasts, which is kind of a great thing. One of the things that we did through that, one of the guys invited us. They were doing a track day at Cadwell Park. Now, have you ever been to Cadwell Park, Mark?
No, I haven't yet.
So it's generally described as like a mini Nürburgring.
Okay.
And we're not kind of like trying to make it something. It genuinely is. It's a small circuit, obviously compared to Nürburgring, but it's got a bit of everything. It's got hill crests, it's got sharp bends and twists, wide bends, and it's really. I think my understanding. I'm not a historian on Cadwell Park, but I think it's primarily a circuit that's used for motor racing or for motorbikes. But the track's big enough to kind of get cars on it as well. Yep. So I went on this track day, and there were obviously a whole mixture of cars, and a few of us went down with the TTs. One of the lads, Jonathan, he took down his TTRS, which he'd tuned up, and went full beans there. He'd got he'd got a support team with him, separate truck, changed his wheels for him while he was getting his driver briefing, the whole lot.
The dream.
And he had an absolute blast of a time. And obviously I was there in my V6, 240 brake horsepower, quite heavy up front car with the bigger brakes on it. and the brakes were cooking very quick, you know, and I very quickly realised that the car had limitations on that sort of track. You get a couple of laps in it, but I really enjoyed it, and it kind of got a bit of the bug for it, really. So then that was about 10 years ago now. It was just before I turned 40.
Okay.
Because I know this because a few weeks afterwards, I went out and bought a Series 1 lease.
Okay.
So I thought, you know, going to do track days.
Definitely.
You're going to do it properly.
Yeah. The car.
I thought, my heart was telling me, go out and buy a Mark 1 TT, kind of one of the special edition ones that they did, which was a bit more track focused, and that strip it down and kind of make it a proper track car. But I thought, well, actually, buy something that's designed for that sort of thing. So that's what I did. So I bought Series 1 lease, brilliant, beautiful looking car, and obviously I'm driving a Lotus.
Yeah,
you know,
special.
This is big. This is big. And took my dad down. I said, so literally, I had this car less than 2 weeks. I said, we've got to go to Cadwell Park. So I'd done no servicing on the car, no checking of it over. Literally bought it from this other. There's actually a races Lotus, but he's looked after the car. But I'd literally had no real experience in driving the car.
Your dad wouldn't have been happy about that.
No, it was actually proud because my dad's actually. Secretly, he loves the whole Colin Chapman story, and that he's been to Lotus Museum twice, I think. It was a moment, I think, when my dad, I felt he was proud.
Yeah,
you know, and it was a good feeling. So I took my dad with me, and we did the kind of, it took him on the warm up laps and stuff, and I wanted him to kind of be very much a kind of a part of it. And then we did I think, did the warm-up laps, and you get out, and then you kind of go on, and then they let you on the track kind of one by one. And I think on the second, possibly the second proper lap I did on it, I put it in the barriers.
Oh, dear.
And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So there's literally the part at Cadwell when you kind of go, I think they call it the hill. Okay. Basically, it kind of just near literally where everyone's watching. And the car goes light, and suddenly I'm going backwards. No idea why. Yeah. Right? I know why now. It's because I'm a rubbish driver. I can't drive. People that can drive these cars are awesome drivers. I thought I was a good driver, but I wasn't. I was going backwards on grass, which is not a grippy surface by any means. And fortunately, I was stopped by the Armco.
Right.
But I was looking up and I could see bits of the car just flying over my head.
Yeah.
And very much like the moment that you explained when you were sat in the, after you had the accident in your Mustang, I was sat in the car. Of course, they stopped in, try track down. And I was just sat in the car, so I got the roof off it as well at that time. And I'm looking at Marshall, and I said, is it bad? And he just says, well, put it like this, it's going to be the end of your track day today. So of course I gets out, and then the you know, the clam on the knee side rears, you know, took quite a beating. There's bits of it missing. The rear wheels pointing in totally the wrong direction. They dragged the whole car onto the tow truck. Yeah, right. That's not we're going to roll. It just got dragged onto it. And they said, "Do you want a lift back to pits to thing?" I said, "No, I'm going to walk." Right, because you know I've seen enough of this. Of course, what they do is they parade your car in front of all the other participants to say, this is an absolute dick who's actually stopped your track time. Because they shut you down for like half an hour to clean up things as well. So it's just like, you know, I don't want to be there. So that
you're looking for the back exit just to make a quick escape.
So I learned the hard way. Luckily, it didn't cost that much to repair. I repaired most of it. Between me and myself, it became a bit of a project. And a good friend of mine was used to work in car repairs, so worked with fiberglass and all that sort of thing. So he kind of handled all that sort of thing. The mechanics on Lotus is really straightforward, really. So kind of it's that rear toe arms and all that sort of thing. You know, got put back, and the car's good as ever. And I had the car, kept it for a couple of years actually there, you know, and spent most of the time modifying it and, you know, just upgrading and updating some of the stuff. So at that time, I think it was about a 10-year-old car at the time. So learned a lot about cars, but the car scared me to death because of what I'd had in it. I went and did loads of different kind of driving experiences, but it still scared me to death because there's no electronics.
It's a very raw car, isn't it? A very raw car. Yeah,
it is. It is, and that's why I say I've got so much respect for people that can get into a car like that, and get it to do some of the crazy things they do because there is so much skill involved in that. So from there, I needed something that got 4-wheel drive on it. So I went for an R8.
As you do.
I did. I've got pictures.
Yeah, indeed.
I've got pictures to share. I like this. So this, by the way, is Shaun's Drive Nation car history, 2017 to 2023. Available in your bookstore. Not really. This is actually a present that Mark bought for me when I turned 50 last year. So it's just a story of kind of what happened when I got into cars. I'm not going to flick through every single page, but just a reference point. So the first car I got was the V8 Gen 1 R8.
Yep.
Which for any
as
car
enthusiast
is an absolute amazing car. Never thought in a million years I would have a car like that. And kind of what really inspired me to kind of try and achieve this is that at that time, the industry I worked in, I was meeting a lot of my clients, had done well in life and through business, and I was regularly getting clients to come because my house at that time was a show house for my business. So we're getting people turn up in Ferraris, Porsches, Lamborghinis, parked outside my house. I think that's really nice outside my house.
it spurred you on.
But you've got to kind of find things, and then I discovered something called vehicle finance. And apparently use this magic service that's available out there, allows you to kind of get cars which would normally be outside your normal reach.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
I might be familiar with it, maybe.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.
So I kind of, found at that time, I think my first R8 in the low end 40s. So a chunk of money. But I'd got an amount of car, nearly half the money in the Lotus that I was able to then kind of, when I sold that. And the finance company passed me for the finance. So yeah.
First step into the supercar world.
So it's a black R8.
Yep.
The worst colour in the world to keep clean. So I think within a very short space of time, having it, I decided I wanted to wrap it. So that's when I had it wrapped in the satin bronze, I think it's called. 3M satin bronze. Absolutely brilliant.
It's a beautiful colour.
Totally de-chromed it.
Yeah.
So that on black, and that's when
that was something about the same time we met.
So we were in the car club at the time, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I think that's when I met Lee Lambo as well. And so I think you guys had already got there, and I turned up, and at that time, obviously, an R8 was a very rare car to see.
Yeah.
And you turn up one that's bright orange, satin as well.
Yeah.
And obviously we were at Scarborough Seafront.
Yeah, it's Scarborough Seafront. So they
we're pulled up.
Yeah.
And
this in Scarborough, but
it's a manual. And the pressure of everyone, because the crowds, you couldn't drive down the road because the road was just full of the crowds.
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I'm trying to reverse it onto this little bit of curb and end up stalling it in front of absolutely everybody and got so much.
It's not the place you want to stall it. Definitely isn't. I remember it there. It was absolutely packed. In fact, today, I don't know if I've been to a busier car show of that style. It's a real shame. We've spoken about this on the podcast before, but it is a real shame that Scarborough lost that. But anyway, back to that event. Yeah, it was a very, very busy one. So I don't envy you stalling.
It's a great car. It's a great car. And obviously, having a supercar like that, you kind of stop meeting other people, that have kind of I've got similar kind of cars and passions and stuff. And it was kind of, for me, it was really the entry point to kind of, to meet some great people.
Else, yeah.
Really. It was awesome. And, I'd spent quite a bit of money in the car. Obviously I had it wrapped. I had the whole interior redone. I just pulled out because the leather seats after a few years, I start kind of looking at things I had and pulled out and properly reupholstered with matching kind of orange stitching and all the rest of it. And it's absolutely brilliant car. But as always, you know, as us car nuts as we are, you're always kind of just having a little glance at what else can I do? What else is out there, you know? And for me, I wanted to keep it manual, and I wanted to, but I also wanted to update the car. So I'd already updated the car a little bit. I'd put the updated rear swooping kind of tail lights on there, and put the updated. I put a GT style rear wing on it and things like that as well. I was happy with the car. Wasn't particularly looking for anything else, and just happened to have by chance just been glancing through Auto Trade. I think what it was is at that time the must have or the go to. R8 at the time was the R8 GT, which is an absolutely awesome car. They obviously made him in limited numbers.
Yep.
And I was just curious how much a GT was. So I did a search on R8 and our GT, and this one came up, and it was a V10 Plus, so Gen 1 V10 Plus. 2014, which was the facelift edition, which it had the swooping lights, the whole new stuff. And it was a manual. Now,
that's rare, isn't
this car didn't exist as far as I'm concerned, because I'd gone through Parker's Guide, and they stopped making when they introduced the DSG, because the original Gen 1 was the R-Tronic.
Okay, yeah.
It was always a single clutch. Then when it gets to 2014 facelift, they introduced the DSG, which they'd obviously had on other cars at the time, and all the cars made were all DSG cars. So how could this car exist that was manual? And I looked at the photos, and yeah, there's a manual gearbox there, and I thought, this doesn't make sense. So I thought I got to go and see this car, and it happened. This car was in Knaresborough, right, which is
fate.
20 minutes drive away, 15 if you really want to get there. And on the way back from a recent drive that I was actually already on with a car club, so I thought, well, I've got to go and see it, Anta. Yeah. You know, so of course I went and had a look at this car. Instantly fell in love with it straight away. And the deal was done. Like, it was an easy sell for the salesman, to be honest. There wasn't really much haggling involved. And I basically thought, if the finance company says I can have it, then it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And the finance company said yes.
Again, you justified it with man math, petrolhead man maths. Yeah.
I'm just looking for a sign. Any sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sign was, the finance company
fact that it was in half an hour radius was enough.
No.
That's all you needed.
It was good happening.
That's all you needed. Good.
So it was a bit of an impulsive decision, if I'm honest on it. It was a step up in price point as well. You know, I was starting to kind of get in the realms of, you know, am I biting off a bit too much and I can chew sort of thing. But I thought, you know, just something kind of told me I had to do it. So when I got back home that day, I thought I need to do a bit more research on this car. What else has it got? You know, so I'm kind of Googling on YouTube, you know, V10 Plus Gen 1 and find out what all the rest of the spec is. And this video comes up on there. It's filmed by Evo magazine, and it shows Gen 1 V10 Plus manual being driven around Blyton Park by Formula 2 world champion at the time. Okay. This was an Evo video as well. I thought, chances of that. There's another one. So there are obviously more than one out there. And then I loved watching the video a few times, and I thought, hang on a second. That registration plate looks very familiar. And of course, it was the same car.
Same car, yeah.
And then when I looked into it further, it turned out that the car was actually, it was an express car.
Okay.
And it was actually ordered by Evo magazine, one of the writers at the time, and he'd actually ordered the car and purposely spec'd it with a manual gearbox for the fun, because everyone was speccing them obviously with DSGs, and he was able to order this. He was able to order a demo car. Yeah. For his, you know, for him to review, but he was able to spec it himself. So he spec'd it with that, spec'd it with the bucket seats, a few of the bits and pieces, and he did the first 15,000 miles in it. He had it for like just over a year, did 15,000 miles. But the car got featured in every single edition of Evo magazine as kind of like a reader's ride, sorry, not a writer's edition, sort of thing. It was like a diary, which I then managed to get copies of in physical form. So it kind of went down with the car when it came to sell it on as well. So it was a great.
So you found a very rare car that also had an awesome story behind it.
Yeah, it had a story.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you said stepping up your budget, but at least I think you probably were pretty safe in terms of its residual value. It being a rare car itself, it was got a better chance of holding better value when it comes to resale anyway.
I felt so.
Anyway,
yeah, and I know a lot of people who've maybe their first step into a supercar has been something like a V10, and for me, I really appreciate the V10. I think more because I'd had the V8 before. And the differences between them was like chalk and cheese, not just the performance, but the suspension setup on the V10 Plus was just brilliant, and it was totally different car to drive. And that's someone who's a rubbish driver. I could tell the difference between the two. So someone that's really knows the stuff would have been able to obviously get a lot more out of it than I did. But yeah, an absolutely awesome car. And obviously, I know I can hear a few people whispering in my ear about wrapping the car twice in the same colour as it was. But it's a car was a great car. So I had it wrapped in satin grey, which again, even gloss. It was Nardo grey. It was I forgot what colour the grey was. It was a dark grey anyway.
Okay, yeah.
It was again not the easiest car to clean, and I'm not one for polishing cars, spending half a Sunday, cleaning a car and going to drive it and then getting mucky again. So the satin wraps for me stay cleaner a lot longer. Yep. So I had that wrapped in satin grey, and then I think a year or so after that then I had it wrapped in another 3M colour called psychedelic satin flip. Yeah.
Which is my favourite.
For me, it's just brilliant.
It's the favourite colour you've ever wrapped one of your cars. Yeah. I know like you say, there's a joke that you wrap a lot of cars in grey, and you wrap grey cars in grey. But the flip was awesome, absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, especially like following it on a drive out when you're catching different elements of the weather, different sunlight. Turn to cloud and then back to sunlight.
It's brilliant because you took it to car shows and it just looks like a flat grey, and then the sun comes out, it's a totally different colour. Yeah. I think when we took some photos, I got some photos here. These were Evo magazine ones before it was wrapped, and then when we had it done in psychedelic, satin flip there, you see the lines of how.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Right?
Colour just comes out, and that's how it looks in real life. It looks like it's like. The contrast is bleeding out or something, but that's how it looks in real life.
Yeah, shout out to 3M on that one. It was a 3M material, wasn't it? Yeah.
They still do it now.
Yeah. That's really nice.
I think I'll repeat that colour again sometime. I do. It suits the shape of the car as well.
Let's be honest, it's not the last grey car you're going to have. There'll be another grey in the future, so definitely I look forward to seeing it on something else.
Yeah. Definitely. You're probably right. Probably right. So I think the last good drive I had in that was Europe in 2019. We did our first Europe drive. It was a really good experience. So obviously there were a good mixture of cars. Yeah. We had, the first time we went on a drive, we had a McLaren. We had Darren his McLaren 540C. Yeah. We had a couple of Lambos, didn't we? So Lee was in his Lambo. With Dave with his Hurricane Performante as well. Yes. And I remember having a conversation with Dave at that time, and I said, like, I love Lambos. I've grown up looking at Lambos on my wall. The Countach was just still as beautiful car to look at. And for me, we were looking at the McLaren and says, it just doesn't spark the same feelings for me, as looking at a Lamborghini, but it had the doors that kind of go up. Yeah. And something about that, 3 months later, I traded it in and bought the McLaren.
Yeah. Didn't take much persuading, did it?
I said I'd never do it. And literally, so what happened is I think after Europe, I think I'd had the car maybe 2 years at that time, and I was just ready for something, just a bit of a change, really. Yeah. And ideally I wanted a Hurricane. And it wouldn't have been a Hurricane, it had been a Gallardo at the time. But the McLaren kind of sat in the middle. So
Yeah.
for me, it made sense.
Yeah.
Motorist sense to use a McLaren effect as a stepping stone into a Lamborghini. And I went and saw a couple of McLaren dealers and saw a couple of cars, but they couldn't value the R8 really where I felt it should be. And so I ended up actually finding someone who was selling a McLaren 570S privately.
Yep.
But on the bottom of his advert said, may consider part exchange.
Okay.
So I gave him a call, explained the car I'd got. He was looking to kind of cash out the car, but was willing to kind of take a bit of a sabbatical on it for some degree to try experience a different car before he got his cash out. And he an R8 was on his bucket list as well. So for him, it was maybe a bit of a step down. Obviously in car value, but in terms of experience, he wanted to kind of give it a go. And obviously my car ticks all the rare boxes, so he felt confident he shouldn't have too difficulty in kind of moving it on when he wanted to. So we did a deal. When he kind of got what he wanted for his McLaren, I got what I wanted for my R8, and the difference was sorted through the power of car finance. Yet again,
as it always is. Yeah.
So car finance actually enabled me to buy a car privately, which again, didn't think you could do. I thought you had to do it through car dealers. So again, something I learned through that as well. And obviously that's bright orange.
Yes, yeah, it was quite a statement, that car. It felt like, although, well, there's often arguments online, isn't there, about especially the Audi R8. Is it a sports car? Is it a supercar? Where does it sit? It feels too special for a sports car, and some argue it doesn't feel special enough to be a supercar. But even though I class it as a supercar, when you made that jump into the McLaren, because it particularly like the 570S is such a good car in McLaren's range, even now, with it being in the orange. I can't remember. Is it papaya orange, the one that you got? What's the?
No, it's
I remember
Ventura.
Ventura, okay,
Ventura,
yeah,
as in Ace Ventura.
Yeah,
Ventura orange.
Just the statement that car made at the time when you saw it on the road. It was absolutely stunning car, and it really firmly sat in the supercar category.
I'll let you into a secret. I was really nervous about going from a four-wheel drive car back to a two-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
For me, in my head, it was like, this is a Lotus with a bigger engine.
Sure,
right?
Sure, yeah.
And I was scared to death of the Lotus. And I bought this car. We did the exchange. We did the whole lot. I never even driven it. I sat in it.
Yeah.
But I never even driven it. So we went to this guy I bought it from, a lovely guy, based over in Huddersfield. And so I drove this car home from Huddersfield, purposely set the sat nav to avoid all motorways. I wanted to drive whatever back roads, whatever it was going to do. I didn't want to sit on the motorway with this car. I wanted to drive it. And the best drive I've ever done, because I just straight away, the car just felt totally different. I felt so confident in the car. Which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to be really twitchy and maybe to kind of like be on edge, but it was like the car would just, the more you kind of drove, even that short space of time, you just filled you with confidence straight away. And I thought, this is a bit weird, and today that car is still the best car I think I've ever driven, because it just, I've said it, I have this conversation with quite a few people, and it's almost like, you put the car in a situation, the car says, you know what, sit back, I've got this. Yeah. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Can't say that in driving, Will, but it's such a capable car. And and when you hear people talk about, chassis and handling, chassis to weight and all that sort of thing, for me, it's kind of numbers that goes over your head, and it's for those people that are really good drivers and stuff, but it's not for rubbish drivers that are, or mediocre drivers, let's just say. As long as you're not being too stupid, the car will do whatever you want it to do, and it'll make you a much better driver and enjoy the driving experience so much more as well. Straight away, I got it. Why is it that so many people that buy McLarens, moan about this, moan about that, but still go out and get another McLaren? It's because, to my knowledge, there's not much else on the road that actually can really master that sort of level. So, I really enjoyed it, and that's the best car I've ever had. Still there. And had it 3 years. So, we had it wrapped up. It was a car calendar graphics, and it attended quite a lot of shows.
Yeah.
It's absolutely epic car. We have photos.
There's just a few, isn't there, of that car?
Brilliant car.
Just a few.
We'll put a few of these online anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant car.
Yeah.
So I'd had that 3 years. After having it for about a year, I knew we were putting miles on it. So I bought a second car. Again, this makes me out to be kind of, I was just fortunate to have a little bit of money to one side. So I bought a Cayman S.
Yep.
And that was the idea of that. Again, very capable car, was to keep that and just to keep the miles off the McLaren, which it did. Even though in 3 years I still put 20,000 miles on the McLaren. So if I didn't have a Cayman S, it'd have probably been easily 30 to 40,000.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I sold it.
Yeah.
Because it was just approaching 40,000 miles. And at that time, there's hardly any other cars, certainly for sale, on 570Ss with that sort of miles. And I was just concerned about the residuals really on it. So I went back to being a bit more sensible, and then went back to an R8. So obviously it's a current car we've got now. Had that a year.
I remember you getting it though, and it's a nice example of one. It came with some extra carbon bits. It came with a aftermarket exhaust.
Someone spent a lot of money on that car.
Yeah, it was a really nice.
So it's a V10 Plus,
nice
which is the one you need.
Yeah,
you're going to get one. So it's got extra performance on it there. It came with, they'd already put a Capristo exhaust on it, which
it's incredibly loud.
It's one of the most expensive exhausts on it, so it's great. Somebody's done that. There are a few extra things. I think the canards were aftermarket, carbon fibre steering wheel, a few of the bits and pieces. It's got the Bang & Olufsen, it's got the laser lights, and it's currently wrapped in, it's currently wrapped in car calendar, but it's soon to be tweaked.
Yeah.
So it will be it'll effectively for 2024. It's currently our only. Carevents.com car, but
we'll have to add a few more.
Add a few more to it
when we can.
Great capable car.
Yeah,
very capable car.
It really is. So both our stories are very similar in that, as it stands, they end where they've started. So I told you that I came from a Ford family. Yeah, and I started then with the Ford Focus, and I'm currently on the Mustang. And then you're exactly the same. So you started with in a VAG car, and now you're currently ending this chapter in the VAG car.
It's true.
But then that leads on to aspirations for the next car and the Dream 3-car garage. So
and
what's next?
Another McLaren. And it has to happen. It's just at what point, at what price? Because again, it's just the concerns about reliability and need something that's reliable. So it needs to be a newer car, one that's still got warranty on it or something.
So I guess based on the current market you've got and the price points, you've sort of the two clear choices are go a little bit older but a little bit higher spec, as in a 720, or you'll be then looking at the next generation of McLarens, I guess, and be looking at the Artura.
Yeah,
or something, or whatever follows the Artura in what they're going to release.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting choice, because certainly I know that everybody who's owned the 720, their feedback is exactly the same, and it's the same as other McLarens, but even more so than maybe the 570, in that there's elements of the reliability and stuff that really, really annoy them. However, it is a furiously fast car and an amazing car on a drive out and on a drive-in tour. So it's interesting to see which way you'll end up going, whether you will go down that route or whether you'll end up on the newer side.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the Artura prices do. I imagine that they've not that, because the whole market has dipped recently quite drastically, haven't they? So I'll be interested to see where the Artura sits in, maybe 6 months to a year's time, something like that.
Might start buying a fire extinguisher. Maybe I'll do that first.
Yeah, maybe you need that. Maybe. I'm happy. I'm happy to see that there's a lot of performance cars adopting the hybrid technology for performance as much as economy. I think there's a lot more to come from that. and hopefully that will just continue, where they'll tick the green boxes, the environmentally friendly box, whatever you want to call it, but they'll keep the fun. And the hybrid position seems to be about the best balance you can get for ticking both boxes. So okay, McLaren's next, but what's the dream? 3 cars. I know it's a difficult one.
It's so difficult. You could do go practical. There has to be a McLaren in there. There's got to be a McLaren in the pin garage. Right now, I'd probably say Senna.
Okay.
Just because it's just as crazy as hell.
Yep.
I can see it pictured up and just looking, getting it stickered up with carevents.com. It just absolutely, I think that it's an epic, very rare car. I think before we've seen another one, car on the market that's very similar to that. But then there's got to be a Lamborghini there as well, because I've never owned a Lamborghini, and what a dream would it be to own something that you've dreamed about for so long times. That has to be in there as well. So that really,
you've only got one practical car.
I've only got one practical car, so I'm going to go down your route. It's RS6 Avant. It just have to, obviously, up to the teeth with everything, but it's just, again, a brilliant practical car.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
Any particular, as it stands, any particular Lambo?
I'd love an Aventador, but I can't fit in one. I've sat in a few, and yeah.
Also, in terms of your radical car, the Senna has ticked that box, probably.
Yeah, I suppose it has. Yeah, I suppose it has. I don't know. There's, I think Hurricane is probably where it is right now. The SUV market, it would never be an Urus, no chance at all. Sorry, Urus owners, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be something like that, or maybe something, it's a different world. No, but then again, Koenigsegg.
There's that as well.
What's a Lambo and you got a Koenigsegg sat in your garage? Sod it.
I think that has to compete with the Senna. I think because the Lambo, it falls into the R8 category in as much as you could use it day to day if you wanted. A Hurricane you could use day to day. It's got that level of practicality where you can make it work. Koenigsegg or Senna, I'm not so sure. So. Anyway, I know we're talking about a lottery winner here.
And then again, Bugatti. I mean, 3 is not enough.
Okay.
It needs to be GTA 10-car garage minimum.
Okay.
Got to be.
Well, next podcast, right? Get thinking, because I'll ask you the top 10 and we'll take it from there.
I think we're running out of time now.
I think we are. Yeah, well, thank you very much for listening to mine and Shaun's car history. Hopefully it's, there's a lot more to add and we can do this again in a couple of years' time and add some cars to the list and maybe add some cars to the bucket list that we've ticked off. That would be great if we could. But for now, thanks for listening. We've got lots of exciting stuff coming this year. As you know, we're kind of spread across several different brands in the car world, but everything we do, we just try and make it so that we're adding as much value to the car community one way or another as possible, both in the UK and now beyond. So watch this space, keep following the journey, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.